And should it be applied in an even-handed way? That's an easy.
No, our foreign policy doesn't require even-handedness. I think it should be applied in a way. No, well, you shouldn't be shocked.
Why do you like racist laws?
This is not for me to answer. Come on.
Must never be scared to kill.
If you say we want equality for white people, that's considered a far-right statement.
If I can save lives, I want to save the lives. Now, I will say apartheid, terrible. A correct and a fair media exposes things, but we have a very corrupt media.
Who does that? Who does that in the midst of that environment?
최근 미국 트럼프 대통령이랑 남아프리카 공화국 라마포사 대통령의 정상회의에서 나온 아프리카너, 즉 백인 농부에 대한 내용이 큰 이슈가 됐었지. 그 이슈를 다각돼서 볼 수 있는 영상을 만들어봤음.
We have maintained that there is no truth, nor any data or evidence that backs that white African or South Africans are suffering from any genocide. There is no targeted persecution in South Africa that is targeting white people. So the Constitution protects them.
It is totally unfounded and totally unsubstantiated.
I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture.
By an executive order on the first day of his presidency, President Trump paused all refugee programs and has canceled contracts to the agencies. There's essentially, from this administration, no refugee programs for anyone except. In early February, the president announced a special refugee program for Afrikaner farmers. Do you think Afrikaner farmers are the most persecuted group in the world?
I think those 49 people that came certainly felt they were persecuted, and they've passed every sort of check mark that had to be checked off in terms of meeting the requirements for that. They live in a country where farms are taken and land is taken on a racial basis.
Okay. Do you think they're more persecuted than Uyghurs or Rohingyas, or more persecuted than political dissidents in Cuba or Venezuela or Nicaragua, or more persecuted than those who would be threatened should they be returned to Afghanistan by violence by the Taliban?
Well, the problem we face there is the volume problem, okay? If you look at all the persecuted people of the world, it's millions of people. They can't all come here. And we had refugee programs.
So why prioritize Afrikaner farmers?
Well, because it's a small subset, it's a new issue, and the president identified it as a problem and wanted to use it as an example. But that's different from having these refugee programs that were basically spending money to put people up in communities and accommodate them, and it was acting as a magnet. Millions of people in this country illegally, and today the border is sealed.
We've allowed special programs for people being persecuted for their religion, Soviet-era Jews. We've allowed special programs for people fleeing from communism, Cuba, Vietnam, the Soviet Union. We've never allowed a special program to allow Africans into the United States in an expedited refugee status until now.
Would you agree with me, Mr. Secretary, that if we're interpreting the statutory phrase, a well-justified fear of persecution, we should try to do that in an even-handed way?
I think we should try to do that in the interest of the national security of the United States.
So okay, I agree with you too. We should. Should we try to do it in an even-handed way? So for example, should we say, if you're persecuted on the grounds of your religion, we'll let you in if you're a Christian, but not if you're a Muslim?
I think that the United States has a right to allow into this country and prioritize allowance of who they want to allow to come in. But I think
I'm going to ask you, so a well-justified fear of persecution?
Yeah, they thought that their farms were being burned down and they would be killed. I think that's a pretty good justification for wanting to come. They're afraid for their lives.
And should it be applied in an even-handed way? That's an easy
No, our foreign policy doesn't require even-handedness. It requires prioritizing the interest of the United States.
The statutory phrase says you are entitled to entrance as a refugee if you demonstrate a well-justified fear of persecution.
No, you're not entitled.
So
you're
can
allowed.
You have a different standard based upon the color of somebody's skin? Would that be acceptable?
Well, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently you are, because you don't like the fact that they're white, and that's why they're coming.
I'm just asking you to say that would be unacceptable.
Well, no, I would say that the United States...
a very easy thing to say.
The United States has a right to pick and choose who they allow into the United States.
Even based on the color of somebody's skin.
You're the one that's talking about the color of their skin, not me. These
are
people whose farms were being burned down and they were killed because of the color of their skin.
Well,
By the way, the United States admits people every year. 1 million people come to this country every year legally. 1 million
and
people
now
a year come to this
there
country
is
legally.
one group
no
of
other
people that
country in the
have
world
an
is nearly as
easy
generous.
pass into this country. For the first time, this administration has said Afrikaners get an easy pass and refugee programs for the remainder of the world are shut off. And you can't say to the American public that we should apply this statute in an even-handed way.
No, I think it should be applied in a way. No, well, you shouldn't be shocked. It should be applied in the national interest of the United States. Our immigration policy should be based on the national interest of the United States. Period. End of story. If there is a subset of people that are easier to vet, who we have a better understanding of who they are and what they're going to do when they come here, they're going to receive preference, no doubt about it. There are a lot of sad stories around the world. Millions and millions of people around the world. It's heartbreaking. We cannot assume millions and millions of people around the world. No country can. So you have to have a process of deciding who do you prioritize, who do you allow in. We do it all the time. We do it in our immigration system now under our current laws.
루비오 국무장관이 살짝 짜증나 보인다면 잘 본 거임. 민주당 의원들은 거의 대부분 바이든 행정부 때 국경을 넘어 들어온 수백만 명의 불법 이민자나 국경을 열어둔 바이든 행정부에 대해서는 한마디 비판도 하지 않고 오히려 옹호했었음. 근데 이제 와서는 망명 신청할 자격이 되는 백인 농부들한테만 쉬운 이민길을 열어준다면서 비난하니 어이가 없는 거임.
Today, South African President Ramaphosa is in Washington, D.C. He'll be meeting with President Trump tomorrow. You and the President, as well as other administration officials, have repeatedly and rightly criticized South African policies on issues ranging from human rights to activities that directly undermine American national security. Those activities, in turn, include what appears to be an explicit and extensive pivot away from the United States and towards the Chinese Communist Party. There are also serious and credible allegations that the South African government's decision-making is compromised by widespread corruption tied directly to Iran. They are working together to target our Israeli allies on the international stage. President Ramaphosa himself has taken an aggressive position, leading a charge of genocide against Israel in the International Court of Justice. And he has pushed for precedents and policies that will not just undermine Israel, but expose American officials to vulnerabilities as well. Please talk a little bit about the extent of South Africa's malign activities and how they are undermining American national security interests.
So the president of South Africa is here today because he says he endeavors to reset relations between our countries. And President Trump, if someone says that, is always going to be open to resetting relations. But it will have to touch on some of the issues just pointed to now. Obviously, the position they've adopted towards Israel is way, not just off balance, but completely geared towards one side. And it makes one wonder about these allegations that are out there now of foreign influence, including with Iran. They clearly, on the global stage, and multiple multinational organizations have consistently been a vote against America's interests, time and again. Not one-off. You always understand when some country has to go in one direction opposite to you because, you know, that happens. That's what diplomacy is ultimately about. Diplomacy is also about when we're aligned, we work together. When we're unaligned, we have to talk. But when one country is consistently unaligned with the United States on issue after issue after issue after issue, now you have to make conclusions about it.
And so, how does their campaign against Israel undermine America?
Well, I think, first of all, because it echoes some of the charges that are being made by some of the biggest enemies of Israel that happen to be ours, whether it's Iran, whether it's these radical groups that chant death to America, death to Israel. So we're very concerned about that. I also think there's real concern in our mind about some of these international institutions that, frankly, South Africa has lined up strongly behind, who would seek to, if they could, jail, imprison, indict American office holders because of some of the positions we've taken on public policy, even though we're not members to the conventions that create these entities. So if you talk about these groups they are in essence utilizing their forum on the national stage as a nation state under this president and this leadership to echo the claims and the positions taken by not just Iran, but in many cases China as well.
Thank you.
Bloomberg broke news today that the South African government is working around the rules on black ownership in order to allow Starlink in, and that is being done on the eve of the visit that President Ramaphosa is going to make to the White House. Do you recognize that as a conflict of interest?
No, of course not. First of all, you should be questioning why are there racist laws in South Africa? That's what you should be attacking. The whole idea with what Nelson Mandela, who was a great man, proposed was that all races should be on an equal footing in South Africa. There are now 140 laws in South Africa that give strong preference if you're a black South African and not otherwise. And so now I'm in this absurd situation where I was born in South Africa but cannot get a license to operate in Starlink because I'm not black.
Well, it looks
Does
like
that
that's
seem
about.
right to
It
you?
looks
Does
like
that
that.
seem right to you?
Looks like that's about to change.
I just asked you a question. Please answer. Does that seem right to you?
Well, those rules were designed to bring.
Yes or no?
Those rules were designed to bring about an era of more economic equality in South Africa, and it looks like the government has found a way around those rules for you.
I asked you a question.
This is your interview. Everyone wants to hear from you.
I asked you a question. Yes or no?
Not for
Racist
me.
laws, yes or no?
Not for me to answer. I have got a question for you about your government work there and the amount of savings.
Why do you like racist laws?
This is not for me to answer. Come on.
Yes, it is.
But, Mr. President, I must say that we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it. I could show you a couple of things, and it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Excuse me, turn the lights down.
정상회담 때 미국 측이 튼 영상인데 남아공 측은 이 사람 빼고는 다들 처음에만 살짝 보다가 영상을 안 봄.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. You are cutting the throat of whatness. Shoot to kill. Come on, sir. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa. Will expropriate land without compensation, whether they like it or not. If they object, they can seek refugee in America.
각 십자가가 죽임당한 백인 농부를 상징한다고 하면서 이 영상도 보여줬는데 이건 사실 백인 농부들 뿐만 아니라 남아공에서 죽임당한 모든 인종의 농부들을 기리기 위해 2020년에 지어진 상징물이라는 보도가 있음. 다음 영상은 엔젤라 로즈라는 유튜버가 만든 30분짜리 영상인데 직접 남아공에 가서 아프리카너들을 인터뷰한 내용이 담겨 있음. 간단하게 보여주겠음.
South Africa, it's moved completely to the left. If you say we want equality for white people, that's considered a far-right statement. If you say kill a boer, kill a farmer,
that's like middle.
Yeah, that's acceptable. The Constitutional Court has stated that is just freedom of speech.
There's a lot of racial laws in South Africa against white people.
Can you give us your reaction to those videos, Mr.
President Trump, well, I think the videos are so. No. When you look at the videos, I mean, how does it get worse? And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what it is. And I have other friends in South Africa. I have people that left. One in particular that says you can't go there. He said they want to take your land. They take your land and they kill you. It's okay, and they say it's okay to do. Now, we're going to talk about it, but this is a tremendous look. This is story recent. These are all people that recently got killed, and I don't know how it can get any worse.
Let me clarify that, because what you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves, political parties to adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can take land.
And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
Genocide is a very strong word. I'm wondering if you've made up your mind as to whether you believe genocide is occurring in South Africa, or you still have doubts. And if you have made up your mind, why invite President Ramaphosa here today for this conversation?
Well, I haven't made up my mind, but also, I'm trying to save lives. I'm working with Russia and Ukraine. I don't have to do that. It's not our war. It was started by other people, but I'm trying to save lives, no matter where. If I can save lives, I want to save the lives. If it's in Africa, that's great. If it's in Europe, if it's wherever it may be. And it's a very small investment to do, believe me, compared to what the consequences are. A correct and a fair media exposes things. But we have a very corrupt media. They won't even report this. If this were the other way around, it would be the biggest story. Now, I will say, apartheid, terrible. That was the biggest story. That was reported all the time. This is sort of the opposite of apartheid. What's happening now is never reported. Nobody knows about it. All we know is we're being inundated with people, with white farmers from South Africa. And it's a big problem. Marco Rubio was telling me he's never seen anything like it. The numbers of people that want to leave South Africa because they feel they're going to be dead very soon.
Passing a law that has allowed them to take property, to possess property of white Afrikaner farmers with no reason. One element is equity. Combined with the chance of kill the boar, the massive rallies where encouragement of violence is prevalent and is at the core of it, in addition to the associations South Africa and its president have chosen to make, like with Iran, and their actions against Israel, it creates a picture that is worthwhile having a conversation in the Oval Office.
As it was explained in the Oval Office, and it has been explained elsewhere, that is a minority party, a protest party that is legally permissible, but that the white agricultural minister said in the Oval Office, that's why we joined the coalition, to make sure that they didn't get into the parliament, that they don't have power.
You saw also the larger video of the thousands and thousands of individuals in a stadium framework. And I think that what Americans in the world and what South Africans see is a movement and an attitude that is not only not punished, but reinforced, but Andrea, reinforced with a law that says, oh, those people that you're calling to have be killed, yeah, let's take their land. Who does that? Who does that in the midst of that environment? So if you're wondering about the nature of why it matters that people are at a huge stadium shouting, kill the boar, combined then with the government that says, oh, we reject that, they're not part of our government, but then pass a law that allows the government to take the property of those very same people simply because they're white farmers. So that speaks to the intention of a regime.